Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is our Themeless Thursday where we're featuring a new segment called Thursdays 13. And I believe Rog is talking about 13 of Russia's former territories, or basically where Russia wants to go to create its empire again. Let's go ahead and get to the rest of our headlines today on Before Coffee. LGBT Veterans Memorial. We're not a dirty secret anymore.
And Hakeem Jeffries quietly arrests the Speaker of the House from Mike Johnson.
Survey finds that 60 firms are responsible for half of the world's plastic pollution.
And what happened to the Russian Empire? Vladimir Putin wants to know.
Forget Taylor Swift. The real tortured poet worth celebrating is in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Those things and more, possibly. And what is National Telephone Day? National Telephone Day, April 25th, 2024, and Before Coffee.
Okay, let's go ahead and open up this Thursday with our LGBT Veterans Memorial. It's the first of its kind in the UK. It's the first memorial for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender armed forces personnel, and is to be built at the National Memorial Arboretum. The government has put £350,000 towards the project, which was one of 49 recommendations of an independent review into the historical treatment of people who were sacked or forced out of the military for being gay. By the way, this is an article coming from BBC by Josh Perry, the LGBT and identity producer. Man, what a great position to have. It was illegal to be gay in the British military until 2000. Campaigners have told BBC News while a memorial is welcome, they remain focused on winning compensation from the government for those affected. Charity Fighting with Pride said the community will be consulted on how to build a memorial at the 150-acre site in Staffordshire, which commemorates those who lost their lives in the armed forces. In 1978, Carol Morgan signed up for 22 years in the Army, hoping to become a physical training instructor. But after falling in love with another female soldier, she was subjected to a 4-day investigation that included psychiatric evaluations and intimate questions about her sex life. This is in the 78, by the way, which is slightly after the sexual revolution, so really weird. Like all these people acting like they were all straight as well. I'm a strong believer that humans are not straight. Everyone is on a scale, okay? And nobody is on 100, okay? Not a single person. There is a guy out there for every man that they are attracted to, and there's a woman out there for every woman that they're attracted to, okay? Somewhere out there. Of course, the famous lesbian joke, I don't know if it's a joke per se, but is when you're so jealous of a woman in high school that you also fall in love with her. It's like, I want to be her so much that I love her. More of a puberty thing than like an adult thing, but it happens. During the investigation, she disclosed her sexuality to her bosses and was immediately dismissed. "We've always felt that we were swept under the carpet when they kicked us out," Miss Morgan told BBC News. "But this memorial will hopefully change that feeling. We won't feel like a dirty secret anymore. It was important that the memorial was built in the National Memorial Arboretum because we're no different to anyone else. But we were treated different for so long. This memorial is especially important to remember those who passed before they could see the review happen," he told BBC News. "It's part of their legacy. As part of that, we also need the government to make sure the recommendations, including compensation, are put into action quickly. A lot of us are getting older or struggling financially, so that's really important." On the release of Lord Etherton's report, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak apologized in Parliament, called the ban an appalling failure of the British state, and promised compensation for those affected. Craig Jones, who chairs Fighting with Pride, which championed for the independent review, said the community would be consulted on how the memorial should be created. "We want to make sure the memorial is representative and a place for the peace and reflection," he said. A great deal of work remains to be done to lift the veterans most affected by the ban from the poverty inflicted upon them after the loss of careers. Too many face crippling debt, poor housing, social isolation, and live with poor health and well-being. 2024 must be the year in which all 49 of Lord Ethelton's recommendations for reparations are delivered. Veterans Minister Johnny Mercer said he was proud of LGBT veterans and pleased that Fighting with Pride will help deliver a memorial to honor them. We are committed to delivering on the recommendations made by Lord Ethelton in his Independence Review at pace, and this memorial will take us one step closer to doing so, he said. The consultation will begin in the coming weeks, and the memorial is expected to be unveiled in May 2025, so around a year from now. I hope to deliver some good news about this memorial opening up. Maybe we could even go there. Details on how compensation will be paid and how much each person will be entitled are yet to be released. Some people might be asking, why the hell do they need to be compensated for getting fired? And I believe the reason is not only did they get fired for being who they are, but second, they kind of got an entire path of life closed off to them. Maybe they were hoping to, become a high-ranking officer in the military, or use that as an opportunity to go into something else related to what they were doing in the military, and that was all shattered away. Oh, you got kicked out of the military, we don't want to hire you because that's suspicious, or you're gay, and it also outed them, right? I got kicked out of the military for being lesbian. Now no one wants to hire me because I'm a lesbian. So there's definitely some due compensation. I don't know how much they're getting compensated, but there is some due compensation for sure. Anyways, that's my news. Good job on the UK for finally doing something real with their apology instead of just apologizing. Oh, sorry guys. No, here's a whole ass memorial that you can go visit and some compensation. Your story.
Okay. Well, that's good news. Could be maybe Good News Tuesday item. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
I just saw it, so I want to talk about it now. So
it's funny how we find good news on other days, and it's like
when
Tuesday we're like looking for. Oh, good, a horse came home. That's right.
The cows walked themselves back to the paddock. Wow, good job.
Yeah, that was one. That was actually Weird Wednesday item, but yeah, it's just like nobody wants to report good news, and then they find something stupid, and they're like, "Oh, here's our great item today," and it doesn't measure up sometimes. That does. Okay, here's some other good news. The Speaker of the House has changed, although not formally, and leadership style has prevailed. The one that says, "Hey, we agree on a lot of stuff. Maybe we can vote on it." Anyway, and that leadership style is Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat of New York, who's the House Minority Leader in name only. This is from Axios. Andrew Sullender. The headline says, Shadow Speaker Hakeem Jeffries quietly wrests control from Mike Johnson. Representative Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat of New York, found himself in an unusual position for a minority leader last week. It was he, not the House Speaker, who had the ultimate power to decide whether legislation came to the floor. Why it matters, Democrats got everything they wanted, a $95 billion foreign aid bill, the credit for passing it, and adversaries more divided than ever, and they're telling their total victory wasn't a sure thing. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, a master legislative tactician, heaped praise on her successor. He is fabulous. We're so proud of him. One senior House Democrat told Axios it easily could have fallen apart. He played the cards the way you want to play them. I would not want to play blackjack against him, the lawmaker added. What happened? Democrats did something virtually unheard of in modern politics on Thursday, crossing the aisle on the House Rules Committee to save the foreign aid package. They did it again the next day on the House floor. This was all Jeffries' call, and it was Democrats' decision to wait until it was clear House Speaker Mike Johnson didn't have the votes on his own before saving the package on the floor. We wouldn't be voting on this right now if it weren't for Hakeem Jeffries. He's the one who created the system that Johnson could follow to get this done, said the House Democrat. Jeffries' message to his members leading up to the foreign aid fight was to stay unified behind him and not commit themselves to positions on saving Johnson that might box the party in. In other words, to give him all the power and maneuverability that Johnson lacks. The senior House Democrat told Axios if he hadn't taken the approach he had, he could have had members going rogue. He gave us so many options, said Pelosi. Between the lines, Democratic leadership had already been forging the unified front that would be Jeffries' strongest weapon for weeks, with a push to get as many signatures as possible on the foreign aid discharge petition. Jeffries himself sat down with centrist Rep. Jared Golden, Democrat of Maine, a skeptic of single-party discharge petitions, to get him to sign. It worked. House Democrats told Axios that foreign aid fight revealed a deafness in Jeffries, both in public and closed-door negotiation, that makes him well-suited for the speakership. Representative Don Beyer, Democrat of Virginia, told Axios, Hakeem has been very graceful. He's not purposefully thrown Johnson under the bus. He's not been triumphant at all. He realizes how bad that would be for Mike Johnson. It's a lesson well learned from previous speakers. He finessed it well when he had to, said Rep. Mike Quigley, Democrat of Illinois. Many Democrats also told Axios they don't anticipate Jeffries facing the type of revolts from his left flank that Johnson has seen from his right on the motion to vacate and procedural votes. The part of this is that his reputation as a coalition builder. He knows how to engage, uplift, and balance all members of his party, said Rep. Jamal Brown, Democrat of New York, a member of the Progressive Squad. Anybody who wants a phone call or a meeting, we've had it, said one Democrat. The lawmaker predicted that a party will change the rule allowing any member to force a vote on ousting the speaker, but said such a vote would never happen in our caucus even if that rule existed. He works closely with his left flank. The bottom line, Johnson should just pack up and resign and hand the gavel over to Leader Jeffries, says Rep. Greg Caesar, Democrat of Texas, a leading progressive caucus member. He seems to be able to manage position in a much more democratic way, in a way that he gets bills to the floor. So as you see, anything that gets done in the House can't be done by Republicans because they're too fractionalized. They've got a bare majority of 4 votes, and Mike Johnson could probably count on, out of his entire House majority, he could probably maybe count 150 people to support him on anything. And the rest of them are just, fuck you, we're doing our own thing.
No.
So, but Hakeem Jeffries is 100% behind backing. He doesn't get 100% backing on his bills. But even the people that are against this funding bill didn't go out and go, oh, it's a horrible thing. They just said, okay, we're here and, we'll get something later maybe. But anyway, he's an effective leader and he's effectively getting things done. So that's what you need in leaders. Back to you.
Good to hear there's a politician that likes passing laws.
Doing his job? How about that?
Yeah. What a freaking concept, dude.
No,
never thought
funding
I'd
the
see
government, those kind of things.
Yeah.
You can thank him for them funding the government, all this shit. You can thank Hakeem Jeffries because he's cool and he's calm and he doesn't fly off the handle for every little thing that goes wrong, which is what you need.
Exactly. All right. This has nothing to do with politics, but there has been a survey done by, I don't know who it's done by, a study by somebody who's found the 60 firms responsible for half of our plastic population. And I'm sure they don't mean like actually dumping plastic, but they create most of the plastic that is being dumped, I suppose. These are including Philip Morris International, Danone, Nestle, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola as the worst offenders. Article by Sofia Quaglia on The Guardian. Fewer than 60 multinationals are responsible for more than half of the world's plastic pollution, with 6 responsible for a quarter of that, based on the findings of a piece of research published on Wednesday, April 24th. The researchers concluded that for every percentage increase in plastic produced, there was an equivalent increase in plastic pollution in the environment. Production really is pollution, says one of the study's authors, Lisa Ertl, director of science at the nonprofit The 5 Geyers Institute. Gyres? Geyers. It's with a G. An international team of volunteers collected and surveyed more than 1,870,000 items of plastic wasted across 84 countries over the 5 years. The bulk of the rubbish collected was single-use packaging for food, beverage, and tobacco products. Less than half of that plastic litter had discernible branding that could be traced back to the company that produced the packaging. The rest could not be accounted for or taken responsibility for. This shows very, very, very well the need for transparency and traceability, says a study author, Patricia Villarrubia Gomez, a plastic pollution researcher at Stockholm Resilience Center. We need to know who is producing what, so they can take responsibility, right? The branded half of the plastic was the responsibility of just 56 fast-moving consumer goods multinational companies, and a quarter of that was from 6 companies. Wow. So 56 are responsible half, and then 6 are responsible for half of that. So there's 6 companies are doing way more than everyone else, just taking up all of the plastic pollution for themselves. The 2 tobacco companies, Altria and Philip Morris International, combined made up 2% of the branded plastic litter found. Both Danone and Nestle produced about 3% of it, and PepsiCo was responsible for 5% of the discarded packaging, and 11% of branded plastic waste could be traced to the Coca-Cola company. You mean the 2 people who make soda and plastic bottles are responsible for plastic pollution? Wow. Honestly,
Amazing.
Probably could have, if I betted on this, I could have guessed it. Who makes the most plastic waste? Let's go back to glass bottles. The industry likes to put the responsibility on the individual, says the study's author Marcus Erickson, a plastic pollution expert from the 5 Geyers Institute. But we'd like to point out that it's the brands, it's their choice for the kind of packaging they use, and for embracing this throwaway model of delivering their goods. That's what caused the great abundance of trash. The Guardian approached Altria, Philip Morris International, Danone, Nestle, PepsiCo, and Coca-Cola Company. The Coca-Cola Company said, "We care about the impact of every drink we sell and are committed to growing our business in the right way. It has pledged to make 100% of its packaging recyclable globally by 2025 and to use at least 50% of recycled material in packaging by 2030. Nestle said it has reduced its virgin plastic usage by 14.9% in the last 5 years and supports schemes around the world to develop waste collection and recycling schemes. Virgin plastic. I love that. This is some good old virgin plastic, not touched by no souls. Since launching our voluntary commitments to addressing plastic waste 5 years ago, we significantly outperformed the market at large in reducing virgin plastic and increasing recyclability, according to the most recent report from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, Nestle has said. The company also supports the creation of global legally binding regulation on plastic pollution, which is being negotiated this week. Danone said, "We continue to strive to reduce our own plastic footprint. Between 2018 and 2023, we reduced our plastic use by 8%, equivalent of 62,000 tons, and increased in recyclability of our packaging. 84% of our packaging is recyclable and reusable or compostable. We continue to support and push for improved collection and recycling infrastructure to help consumers recycle." They also support an ambitious and binding UN Global Plastic Treaty, which would represent a major opportunity to unlock and accelerate progress on plastic circularity. However, while many of these companies have taken voluntary measures to improve their impact on plastic pollution, the experts behind the study argued they are not working. Plastic pollution production has doubled since the beginning of 2000, and studies show only 9% of plastic is being recycled. I mean, where? I just want to ask, where? Is this the whole world or like particular countries? Because I don't know the stats on this, but I do know that most of the European Union, maybe even most of Europe itself, has a thing called, I don't know what it's called in English. I get state tax, statiegeld is what it's called in Dutch. Basically, it costs you 25 cents to buy a plastic bottle, right? They're going to charge you 25 cents. But you can get that 25 cents back if you turn the bottle back in. It's basically the same idea they had with glass bottles, right? You can refill your soda or whatever, you bring it back. if you bring your glass bottle back. So they have the same kind of take and return policy with a lot of plastic here in the Netherlands and most of Europe. So I wonder if that's actually affected recyclability of plastic, or I guess they're just taking those bottles and throwing them in a landfill. I don't know. When a team collected data on self-reported yearly plastic packaging production for each of these multinational companies and compared it with the data from their 1,500 plus liter surveys, their statistical analysis showed that every 1% increase in plastic production was directly correlated with approximately 1% increase in plastic pollution. So every time they added more plastic to the world, they also added more pollution to the world. Actually seeing this 1-to-1 increase, I was like, wow. This is a study author, Kathy Willis, a marine socio-ecologist from the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization in Australia. Time and time again, from our science, we see that we need to be capping how much plastic we are producing. However, Kartik Tajan, an environmental engineer at Columbia University, who was not involved in the research, said that while this new data was striking, the observation that 1% of plastic production was equal to 1% plastic pollution was a bit unrealistic and simplistic. I agree. I'm not a scientist, but I think you need to do several more studies on this to actually see the correlation here, because it seems a little too convenient. He said they did not consider plastic pollution in China, Korea, and Japan, nor take into consideration recycling or cleanup initiatives underway. Oh, so they only looked at what, Western countries? Yeah, I guess I need to read the study to see where they actually went and looked. And UN countries, maybe? I have no idea. I'm pretty sure Japan is in China and Korea. Aren't they in the UN? One of them is in the UN. Korea, I think at least, right?
Everybody's in the UN. Even North Korea is in the UN.
Everybody!
That's the UN. There's nobody left out. Sorry.
I'm sure there's definitely countries who aren't in the UN.
I don't think there is.
We'll look that up after this.
Once it recognizes countries.
I think they're recognized, but I mean, they're actually seated in the UN. I don't know. Because I think Taiwan's recognized, but they're not seated in the UN.
That might be only it. Because, yeah.
A better analysis could be based on the net plastic flows in plastic production, also accounting for credits from reuse of plastic materials and the net plastic load ascribed as plastic pollution. The team behind the study, some of whom are participating in the talks being held in Ottawa this week to discuss a UN treaty for plastic pollution, said their findings emphasize the urgent need for globally binding treaty focusing on production measures. The talks will run to Monday.
North Korea's not. Sorry.
Taiwan's not in the UN?
I thought my mic was off.
Oh.
It's been off the whole time. I was just saying North Korea is not in the UN. All right.
Okay. So these talks about creating a global binding treaty will be running until April 29th, which is next Monday. Luis Valles Valdisio, the Ecuadorian ambassador to the UK, told The Guardian earlier this week he is hopeful that countries would come together to secure an international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution. It's very important we are negotiating this treaty now. The world is in a triple crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. But while there are agreements in place for the first two, we have no legislation, no global agreement on plastic pollution. So, there's your big news on trying to save the world from plastic. Or I know Rog believes that God put us on Earth, or one of his theories is God put us on Earth to invent plastic, and now we're just...
That's a George Carlin bit.
Oh, no, it's George Carlin's, okay. But you believe it then?
George Carlin bit. I don't believe it. It's humor. It's humor. When I quote humor, it's because it's humor.
We're all put on this planet by God to create plastic.
I think that's what his theory was. How do we know it wasn't God, it was Mother Earth? How do we know that Mother Earth did not just allow humans to populate the planet just so Mother Earth could have plastic? And now we've served our purpose. It's time to go.
It's time to go.
Which makes perfect sense. It makes as much sense as anything else. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. That's in my article.
Doesn't mean I believe it.
So I guess on to the 13 things of 13ness.
All right. We're trying on a new New feature, Thursdays 13. And I make a list of 13 things and reveal them one at a time with my fancy new technology called the magnet. Anyway, today's list is 13 countries who used to be part of the Russian Empire that might want to watch their backs. And we got 3 columns. We have the country, the type of government in there, and if they are part of NATO. Okay, which again figures into what Boris is doing. Not Boris. What Vladimir Putin's doing next, or Boris. There's probably a lot of Borises in the army. Are doing next. What are they doing next? What's their next chess move? What part of the dominoes are going to fall as we apply the communist, the what they call the domino theory? That's why we got in Vietnam and Korea, the domino theory. Okay, first domino, of course, is Ukraine. What kind of government they got is a democracy, and they are not a member of NATO, but they are on their way. So, Ukraine's an easy one. They're in the news all the time. Next country that might want to watch their backs, and they're in the news a lot, is Belarus. Oh yeah, why? They have an autocracy, and they're not part of NATO. So Belarus, next on the hit parade of countries that shouldn't probably be looking over the border and going, what's all them tanks going there? Anyway,
Yep.
Number 3, Latvia. Why is Latvia so high? No reason. It's just another country on the list. No, they're not ranked in an order of importance, but it's also to point out that Latvia is in NATO. They were a former Soviet state, now in NATO, and
they don't want to be part of
they
Russia.
have a democracy.
Yeah.
And they have a democracy. So I think Russia's going to have some trouble invading them. The next one is one of your more thriving democracies, Lithuania. Also a democracy, also NATO. Don't have much to say about them except they are getting their shit together. Estonia, another former Russian Soviet Empire. That's a democracy and in NATO. If you see the big purple yeses, that means he doesn't dare invade because NATO's going to start bombing Russia almost immediately. That's
forget,
actually
NATO
what
is
they
a
would
threat
do.
to global security.
We think of this.
So that's what he keeps saying.
Yeah. Right. Number 6, and the newest member one of the newest members to NATO, Finland. Used to be part of the Soviet Empire and the Russian Empire. Don't forget that. Not the entire country, but parts of it. Number 7, one of the first countries to break free from Soviet rule was Poland. Back when Solidario, Lech Walesa, well, they were one of the first democracies too to spring up, and they're still a democracy, and they're still part of NATO. Poland.
Have you seen the image of roads between Finland and Russia's border? Finland has 1 billion roads. And then as soon as the Russian border hits, there's like 3 roads in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Just a fun fact, because you were talking about Finland. I was
right.
I saw an image of the
There's a
roads.
lot of ways to, yeah. Not a lot of ways to get out, right?
Yeah.
They got to control that border. And of course, Moldova, which a lot of people don't even realize is a country. Moldova. It is not in NATO, but it is a democracy. So they got a fighting chance. But they might, at some point, become a NATO member. Now my phone's ringing.
It would be very surprising if Russia was going to invade Moldova next.
Hear that music? Well, anyway, it's going to keep going until my phone doesn't pick it up. Another country, Armenia, which a lot of people don't even recognize as a country.
They definitely don't want to be part of Russia.
Not part of NATO, and it's got a border with Russia, but it is a democracy. So they've got a fighting chance. This is where you get into the countries that might be in trouble. Along with Belarus, Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is as you look right here, is a autocracy. It is an autocracy. And if you're an autocracy, you have a leader that was not elected by anybody. And he does what he wants to. So, Azerbaijan. At number 10, probably second on our list of countries that may want to look over the border a little bit more.
Or maybe they want to join, I don't know.
The former Soviet state of Georgia is next on our list. And they are a democracy, and they are not in NATO. Again, being in NATO has a benefit. Because, as we've seen, Ukraine does not have NATO membership, and they have a democracy. And Putin just said, I don't care, that's part of the Russian Empire. Number 12, and the most dangerous of these groups that fall under Russian imperialism, is the 5 stands. And if you don't know what the five stands are, let's see. We've got Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. And Uzbekistan is I believe the only one of these that is not a full autocracy. So Uzbekistan
has a fighting chance.
Is what they call a hybrid. But again, not eligible for NATO. Why? None of you are an actual democracy. So you're not going to be in NATO, and you have no real protection against Vladimir Putin, except his good intentions. And of course, number 13 country that used to be part of the Russian Empire, but not the Soviet Union, the United States of America. Number 13, the United States. That's right, Alaska was part of Russia until 1867. In fact, our country would basically be cut in half if we didn't have Alaska as far as land mass.
Yeah.
So there you go. If Vladimir Putin gets all them countries, or maybe he doesn't even wait. Maybe the next one he jumps on is like, you know what? That was really ridiculous that we sold Alaska for $2 an acre back in 1867. I wasn't part of that. I didn't approve that.
I didn't agree.
Where's Vladimir Putin's signature on that? We want Alaska back. And depending on who's president, we might get it back. Think about it that way. I think Donald Trump would just give it to him.
You can take
He's
it.
ready to give him Ukraine.
There's polar bears.
And I'll wait till you're done with your eye drops to conclude my story. But yeah, that is your Thursday 13. Not lucky, not unlucky, just 13. And back to you for your story. Hopefully back to you for your story.
Yep, I'm ready. Sorry, my eyes were really dry, so I put some contacts in because I have contacts in.
I get it.
Well, I'm hoping Uzbekistan can break free from the conglomeration of the stands and become its own country. I mean, they are their own countries.
It is though.
It is kind of tragic that
form of democracy,
everyone just calls them the stands, but they're definitely all separate countries with their own thing going on.
But you just gotta look them up. In fact, what are the stands? And it just lists them.
Let's do that for tomorrow's special segment. You can cover the stands in your second segment. What are the stands? Okay. For our culture segment, Taylor Swift came out with a new album called The Tortured Poet. Songs from a Tortured Poet or something like that. We've already gone over. I'm not really a Taylor Swift fan, and I don't really listen to any of her music. The only reason I know any of her songs is one, because they're on like pop track, like the pop radio, or I watch YouTubers who cover pop songs and they talk about Taylor Swift. And because Melanie, my younger sister, also listened to Taylor Swift when she was first coming up on the stage. So that's the only thing I know about Taylor Swift, but I've never listened to her involuntarily.
She still does.
Yeah, of course. Once you're a Swiftie, you're always a Swiftie. That's what I say. Or they say. Either way, she's come out with a new album, but David, who is our culture cynic of Euronews, thinks we should celebrate a real tortured poet, not Taylor Swift, who's a billionaire white chick from Tennessee. Even though she's not actually from Tennessee, because I think they moved to Tennessee when she wanted to become an artist. Anyways, that's his opinion, so we're going to read his opinion with all his lip that he's going to give, because he's a sassy guy here on Uranus Culture. The 1999 coming-of-age rom-com and one of the best Shakespeare adaptations out there just turned 25, and Kat is the tortured poet we all need right now. Sorry, Taylor. As you may have heard, the Tay-Tay supremacy continues with Swift's surprise double album having landed almost a week ago. Since then, Ride or Die fans have been combing through the lyrics of the Tortured Poets Department, that's what it was called, to find ever Easter egg to add to ever-expanding lore. Countless op-eds have been published dedicated to whether Swift has lost it, and some mildly tortured Swifties like myself continue to bemoan the overblown cultural stranglehold the singer continues to exert through her hyperproductivity. Waking up to the fact that the oversaturation is near, especially when she could have released one polished album instead of unloading 31 songs in one sitting, thereby proving we're fully in the quantity over quality era. This is David's opinion, by the way. I have no opinion because I have not listened to the album. Well, there are those who choose to embrace the title of her 11th album by championing Swift's latest effort as a true poetic work of post-romance martyrdom. David has gone the other way, feeling conflicted about what feels like performative misery through her lyrics. Most of all, though, he's discovered that he can't listen to the Tortured Poets Department without casting a shadow over it when his mind drifts towards one truly tortured poet. Sylvia Plath? Good shout, but no. Allen Ginsberg? Solid choice, but again, neat. Neil Perry and Dead Poet Society. Close, but no Parisian cigar. I'm talking about Kate Stratford from 10 Things I Hate About You, a stellar watch which just turned 25. Kat is the tortured poet we all need right now. For those who require a quick recap, 10 Things I Hate About You is loosely based on The Taming of a Shrew. Starred fresh-faced Joseph Gordon-Levitt as a new kid in school, Cameron. He quickly falls for Bianca Larissa Oleanick, who can't date her unless her sister Kat, Julia Stiles, gets a squeeze of her own, as per the father's strict dating rules. Enter brooding high school bad boy Patrick, Heath Ledger in his first American movie, who accepts to be bribed by Cameron to take out Kat. Gilles Junger's 10 Things I Hate About You, a title inspired by one of the film's screenwriters, finding her old high school diary, which included a list she'd made of the things she hated about her then boyfriend, stands to this day as one of the best modernized retellings of literary classics, according to David anyways. Screenwriting duo Karen McCullough and Kirsten Smith made it an endlessly quotable and slightly subversive comedy that had more feminist credentials than many of its genre neighbors. Quite the feat considering the misogynist leanings of the source material, in which the shrew is tamed. More than that, a nostalgic trip to the seemingly simpler times of the 90s, the film is an empathetic portrait of adolescence, one of the brushed aside cookie-cutter stock characters in favor of well-written teenagers who actually felt relatable and who ultimately taught us to blaze our own paths. Generation X heroes they are. That, and while you can be overwhelmed and underwhelmed, the only place where you can be whelmed is Europe. And then there's Kat. Kat was many things, an out-of-proud misfit, a rebel with social conscious cause, an assertive Sylvia Plath reading fictional aficionado, of angry girl music of indie rock persuasion, someone who surprises herself by falling in love and understands that vulnerability and self-assertiveness need not be mutually exclusive. A true tortured poet. Or as Gen Z would call them these days, not like other girls character. I'm not like the other girls. I read books. And I listen to angry girl music. Not like those other girls. If 10 Things I Hate About You is up there with Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet as one of the best adaptations of Shakespeare play, yet again, David's opinion, which paved the way for the bard-riffing films like Get Over It, Oh, also starring Julia Stiles and She's the Man, I'd argue that the character of Kat walks so that Swift could run. Kat was the mainstream embodiment of the era's riot girl with 2-3 R's, sensibilities, and something initially mirrored in the film's Seattle setting. The underground feminist movement of the 90s was birthed in Seattle, and then, through Kat's actions, words, and music taste, Raincoats and bikini kill are name checked. She reveals herself to be on the same stage Tank Girl was walking. Take the scene in the English class when Kat takes her male teacher, Mr. Morgan, a terrific Daryl Mitchell, to task by asking him why they have to read Hemingway. He was an abusive, alcoholic misogynist who squandered half of his life hanging around Picasso trying to nail his leftovers. She then that is a great quote. She then calls out the oppressive patriarchal values that dictate our education and gets sent to the principal's office for disrupting class before telling Miss Perky, Allison Janney at the top of her game, expressing my opinion is not a terrorist action. Sorry. That's what the article says. The article says, chef's kiss, sorry, bird flip, in asterisks. So
okay.
I did it in real life without any
Didn't translate well.
Just doing it randomly with no indication. In establishing the protracted link between Kat and Taylor Swift, David is not arguing that the latter is a modern revamped version of the Riot Girl spirit. Nowhere near, in fact, as the punk movement rejected hyper-consumerism, gave oppression beauty standards the finger, and brought awareness to social issues like domestic violence and classism through music. However, David would posit that Swift is Stratfordian in her way, as she aims to empower through her tortured poetry and does, to her credit, suggest to her listeners that being angry need not be a bad thing, and that love doesn't have to equate to compromising your ideals. The difference between the two I do mark, quite aside from the fact that Swift has yet to deliver a line quite as brilliant and cutting as I guess being male and an asshole makes you worthy of our time, is that at no point did Kat perform for the sake of others. I'm not sure I could say the same about the Tortured Poets department and its brand of self-referential performity. And when Kat delivered her poem at the end of 10 Things I Hate About You, she was teary-eyed yet strong, crucially genuine. She stood firm in her feminist beliefs and managed to show there was no real weakness in being tortured. I hate the way you talk to me, the way you cut your hair. I hate the way you drive my car. I hate it when you stare. I hate your big dumb combat boots and the way you read my mind. I hate you so much it makes me sick, and it even makes me rhyme. I hate the way you're always right. I hate it when you lie. I hate it when you make me laugh. Even worse, when you make me cry. I hate it when you're not around and the fact you didn't call. But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all. Puts So Long London into perspective, doesn't it? I don't know, because I've not heard So Long London, but I think it's probably some sort of breakup song, because let's be honest, Swift does write a lot of those. So while you may be trying to figure out which song is actually a dig at Matt Healy or Joe Alwyn or on Swift's latest album, David chooses to celebrate one of the best teen comedy films ever made and its lead protagonist, Kate Stratford, a character that 25 years ago showed what a tortured poet truly was. Join him, won't you? You won't be sorry. Not even a little bit. Not even at all. Aw, look at him trying to be poetic. So there you go, David's rant about how Taylor Swift... Well, I have to agree a little bit with that. Taylor Swift, when I see her trying to be kind of like a political or, an activist, it comes off in very shallow. Not saying she doesn't believe in the things she's fighting for, but it does come off a little bit like, come on, guys, let's go. Instead of her standing up by herself and doing it, it just feels like she's waiting for everyone else to join her. When I feel like she should just be striving ahead without anyone's support and just doing it for herself. But that's just how it comes off with me with the very limited experience I've had with seeing Taylor Swift anywhere on social media or on YouTube or anywhere. So, no, that's just, I'm not an activist, so I'm not.
I just don't think she's a political creature, and never intended to be, and that she feels really uncomfortable having her own opinions on politics because she doesn't feel informed, which is fine, right? Yep. It's just fine. I think she's just in favor of freedom, and that's the easiest thing to be, right? Yep. Instead of just waving a flag and going, America,
we're perfect.
She's actually involved in people's reproductive rights, for instance, because I guarantee 90% of her fans want their reproductive rights.
Yeah, I think she had a documentary. I don't remember when it was. Maybe during the last album, she had a documentary, and in that documentary, she did have kind of a section where she was getting really angry at her family and people she knows in Tennessee because they were like, yeah, we finally can make abortion illegal. And she's like, what the fuck is happening? I hate all of you guys. You guys disappoint me. So
I'm definitely pro Taylor Swift.
yeah, I'm not against her either.
And,
I just don't listen to her, and I don't follow her, so I'm not like obsessive.
Well, I don't have to. It doesn't. I don't listen to Merle Haggard either, but I like Merle Haggard, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I maybe listen to 2 Merle Haggard songs that are worth of crap in my entire life, and I still like Merle Haggard. Like, I don't give a shit if I don't like really necessarily listen to Merle Haggard music. But again, what people sing about it, and necessarily what they believe anyway. So. Merle Haggard is bringing him up. I don't know why, but he wrote a song called Okie from Muskogee, and the first line of Okie from Muskogee, and I think you've been to Muskogee, Oklahoma. It's about Muskogee, Oklahoma. The first line says, "We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee." Well, Merle Haggard smoked more marijuana than Cheech and Chong. So
yeah,
he wrote that song. But he was not that guy. He was just he was writing and making fun of these people, and it became his biggest hit. And the people who he was making fun of loved it. So,
idiots.
Well, he was smart enough not to be political about it. He just said, "Give me money, thank you. I've been a struggling artist for years. Thank you very much." Right? One hit song. That's all I need, and I'm on the easy street. So yeah, he was happy as hell. And just laughing his ass off because everybody thought he was a straight arrow. I mean, Merle Haggard came straight from prison to become a country artist. He was not a straight arrow, folks. He was a petty criminal before he was a singer. Anyway, people's idols and their ideas about their idols are always hard to shake. Just one example.
Keep yourself level-headed. That's all I have to say. No one's perfect.
Right. Like Merle Haggard was a cool guy. He wasn't that right-wing, no, don't smoke marijuana in my state. He wasn't that guy at all, right? He got that reputation from that song. Weird, huh? Anyway, this day in history. 1781 in Petersburg, Virginia. Benedict Arnold captured Petersburg, Virginia for the British troops under William Phillips in the American Revolution. That was... he captured it as a British commander fighting against the Americans. So he was a full-on traitor, Benedict Arnold. So yeah. In 1792, the first guillotine was erected. Oh boy. On the place of De Greve in Paris to execute highwaymen. In 1809, the Treaty of Amritsar, which settled Indo-Sikh relations for a generation, was concluded between Charles T. Metcalfe, representing the British East India Company, and Ranjit Singh, head of the Sikh Kingdom of Punjab. 1859, construction on the Suez Canal officially began. Completed 10 years later, the waterway connected the Mediterranean and the Red Seas. In 1874, Guillermo Marconi, an Italian physicist who invented a successful system of radio telegraphy in 1896 and received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1909, was born. So happy birthday to Marconi, who was given the credit for inventing radio, although it was the work of several people. 1901, several people in several locations, separately doing separate things, by the way. Radio was kind of invented off an idea that everybody just took off in different directions and ran with it and said, I think I can do this. And Marconi got the patent, one of the patents. 1901, New York. I'm sorry?
No, I
thought you said so. Oh, okay. In 1901, New York became the first U.S. state to mandate license plates when Governor Benjamin Odell Jr. signed a law ordering automobiles and motorcycles to display the separate initials of the owner's name placed upon the back thereof in a conspicuous place. In 1908, Edward R. Murrow was born, a radio and television broadcaster who was the most influential and esteemed figure in American broadcast journalism during its formative years. He was born in North Carolina. 1915, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps landed in Gallipoli in western Turkey during the Dardanelles campaign of World War II. Australian and New Zealand Army campaign that I cannot pronounce. Dardanelles. 1926, Giacomo Puccini's uncompleted opera Turandot was performed posthumously at La Scala under the direction of Arturo Toscanini. In 1959, one of the largest civil engineering feats ever undertaken, the St. Lawrence Seaway officially opened, linking the Atlantic Ocean with the Great Lakes. What a coincidence! The same day that the Suez Canal, right? Isn't that freaking hell of a coincidence, right? Because the Suez Canal began, I guess, on the same calendar day that the St. Lawrence Seaway was finished in 1859. Well, years and years and years later. In 1995, Ginger Rogers passed away at the age of 83. Ginger Rogers, who starred with Fred Astaire in 10 popular Halloween musicals, and what they famously said about Ginger Rogers, she did all the moves that Fred Astaire did, but she did them backwards in high heels. 2014, in a cost-saving measure, the water supply of Flint, Michigan was switched from Detroit Water and the sewerage department to the Flint River, causing the public health crisis as the residents were exposed to dangerously high levels of lead. And of course, the rich bureaucrats at the state level said, they're poor. Who cares what they drink? 2015, magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck near Kathmandu, Nepal, causing widespread damage and killing several thousand. Kathmandu. That's really, really where I'm going to. If I ever get out of here, I'm going to Kathmandu. That's a Bob Seger song. I don't know if he wrote it, but he sang it. 2019, John Havlicek, NBA basketball player, died at the age of 79. They're touting him as the best sixth man, but that's just politics. That's just horse crap. I don't have no evidence he was the best of anything. He was a guy who played for the Celtics. 2021, Chinese filmmaker Chloe Zhao became the first person of color to win the Academy Award for Best Director. She was recognized for Nomadland 2020, which also was named Best Picture. So, our featured event, the Hubble Space Telescope sent into orbit. The Hubble Space Telescope, a sophisticated optical observatory built in the United States under the supervision of NASA, was placed in operation this day in 1990 by the crew of the Space Shuttle Discovery. 1990, of course, the Hubble telescope, it didn't work right away. They had to go replace some of the mirrors. The astronauts had to do spacewalks to repair it later, so that was a lot of fun to watch. Our feature biography, Al Pacino. Happy birthday to Al Pacino. Born April 25th, 1940, turns 84 today. Britannica still living in last year. I think he's 83. Other birthdays today. Oliver Cromwell was born on this day in 1599. English, as they called him, Lord Protector Oliver Cromwell. 1917, Ella Fitzgerald. American blues, jazz, and scat singer Ella Fitzgerald, born in 1917. American basketball player and Harlem Globetrotter Meadowlark Lemon was born on this day in 1932. We already covered Al Pacino, but they listed him twice because he's Al Pacino. We got to make sure everybody knows it's Al Pacino's birthday. Also, Tim Duncan's birthday, American basketball player, born in St. Croix, which is an American territory. He's born in 1976. Also, on this day, it is National Besides National Telephone Day, it is National Take Our Sons and Daughters and Sons to Work. National Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work. Why don't they just say children? You know? Doesn't that make more sense? Take Your Child to Work Day, okay? That's what it is today. Yesterday was National Administrative Assistance Day, which used to be called Secretary's Day. And now Take Your Daughter to Work has now been changed into Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work. Because I have no idea.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a holiday.
Children, you can't take them to work. Not allowed.
Well, it was supposed to be a holiday to encourage. Right. It was supposed to be a holiday to encourage women in the workplace by taking your daughter to work, but they changed it so it doesn't have any meaning at all. And then they made it really too long. Why don't they just call it Take Your Child to Work? Isn't that a lot shorter than daughters and sons? And it's inclusive of everybody. That's non-binary. So why don't you just say Take Our Child to Work? I don't know. It just seems so simple for me. I'm just a common little working drone, you know, obviously at the bottom of the food chain. I just think this is a little bit more logical than making it unnecessarily long. I say the same thing about LGBTQ thing too, because they keep adding more letters to it and nobody's ever going to say it past 4 letters. Sorry. Your acronyms are so long that they're cumbersome. They're no longer acronyms. They're cumbersome. Acronyms are invented to make things simple, not to make them longer. Anyway, that's my little diatribe in the English language and why we keep trying to frickin' inclusive and non-inclusive and all this other crap. Just use the words. Just use the words. And there's nothing wrong with queer. If there's something wrong with queer, why is it an LGBTQ?
Yeah.
So anyway. And queer was invented a long time ago. And then people were using it and it was a slur. Now it's not a slur.
Words do change.
It's very confusing.
To be fair.
Yeah. It's very confusing. I'm just telling you, I'm giving you an acronym advice. Whoever keeps adding to that acronym needs to stop. Come up with something you can just say. Like spell something, right? That would be the smart thing to do. But hey, I'm not the acronym guy. I'm just like I said, it's National Zucchini Bread Day. That's right. That's what they call me, the acronym guy. In fact, I applied for several acronym openings this past week. National Zucchini Bread Day today, and it's National Teach Children. Yeah, zucchini bread. National Teach Children to Save Day. And you should save, definitely. National DNA Day. Everybody's got DNA, so you can celebrate that. It's National Hug a Plumber. Hug a plumber. Hug a plumber. And hopefully he's not soaking wet when you're hugging him. Those are your days for today.
Sewer water.
Over time. For April 25th, 2024, and before coffee. Before coffee is my hiccups rise up again.
The coffee's already coming out. This has been Allison here from the Netherlands. Thank you for watching another episode of Before Coffee. Don't forget to subscribe to the Ally and Rog's channel if you're not already, and of course like and share our fun, exciting news briefs here in our 13 countries we think are going to get invaded by Russia, I guess. Well, one's already been invaded, so 12.
And Al Pacino's 84, not 83. Thank you.
And we will see you tomorrow for our Friday news dump. Reminder, before Friday happens, if you see any news stories we haven't talked about, go ahead and comment them down below or message us on Twitter or something, and we'll look at them and maybe even cover them in our Friday news dump. This is a community show. You can also participate. Here is your mic drop moment. If I can find it. I found it. Have a good one out there.
My friends, I don't know. Did I do some Shakespeare now? I think is in order, right? To be. No, I'm not going to do it. No. Sorry. World, this is the time for the last award of the evening. and it's my honor to present it. 10 wonderful films were nominated, but only one will take the award for Best Picture. And I have to go to the envelope for that, and I will. Here it comes. And my eyes see Oppenheimer. Yes. Yes.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.